When you're ready, go. All right, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is President Heminger. Today is Monday, January 29th. The time is 7:06 p.m. This is the January, this is the January general membership meeting of the NAACP Arlington branch. Pastor Davis, are you with us this evening?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Pastor, would you mind opening us up with a brief word of prayer?
Absolutely. Let us all pray. Gracious and eternal God, we pause today with gratitude in our hearts for all that has happened to bring us to this present moment in time. For life, for health, and strength, we give you thanks. We pray for guidance for our branch of the NAACP, for each member, each person that is a part of our community, and especially the community leaders, God, that you have assigned to be in leadership over us. We ask for you to give wisdom and divine direction tonight and in the days that are to come. Thank you for blessing us in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor. And Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
We have President Heminger, who is present. First Vice President James Younger.
Present.
Second Vice President Laurel Langhorne. Secretary Wanda Younger, present. Assistant Secretary Kathleen McSweeney will not be with us today.
Recording in progress.
Treasurer Adriana Spain.
Present.
Executive Committee at Large Karen Nightingale. Executive Committee at Large Kellen Macbeth.
Present.
Executive Committee at Large Nadia Conyers.
Present.
Communications Leah Matterall. Criminal Justice / Legal Redress Amy Stitzel.
Present.
Education Tia Alfred.
Present.
Environmental Climate Justice Julia Spain.
Present.
Health Tasia Iglesias. Housing Chair Wells Harrell.
Present.
Political Action Jan Marie Pena.
Present.
And we have our Pastor Davis, Religious Affairs, who is present. Religious Affairs, Rosa Dunkley.
Present.
And that concludes our.
All right, Madam Secretary, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, I'm having some tech issues for some reason. So I may need to leave and come back. It looks like the next item on the agenda is the adoption of the November and December 2023 financial report. Madam Treasurer, are you prepared to present that?
Yes,
Okay, great. The floor is yours.
thank you. Good evening, everyone. For the November financial report, our ending balance for revenue was $17,092.45. For our expenses for the month of November, the total was $2,084.19. That left our balances for our savings account for the reserve for the branch with no change at $5,000. The checking operations account with an ending balance of $34,086.57, and no change to the scholarship account. That balance is $245,322.04. And that is the November report.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion from any members to adopt the financial report as presented by the treasurer and subject to audit.
I move that the financial report be adopted, subject to audit.
I second it.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. It's been properly moved and seconded to adopt the November 2023 financial report as presented by the treasurer and subject to audit. Is there any further discussion? Is there any questions, comments, concerns? All right, sensing none, will all those members in favor of adopting this financial report as presented, would you please say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All those members who oppose, you have the same right. And are any members abstaining tonight? Thank you. Madam Secretary, let the record reflect that was a unanimous vote. Madam Treasurer, the floor is yours for the December financial report.
Thank
And
you.
President Him, I'm sorry, can I get who second the motion?
I believe Sister Dunkley, was that you?
Yes.
Thank
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Sister Dunkley. Madam Treasurer.
For the December report, our ending balance for revenue was $10,530. For expenses, the total was $10,765.18. No change to our savings reserves account with a balance of 5,000. The checking account, our operations account, the ending balance is 33,851.39, and no change to the scholarship account. Again, the balance for that account is $245,322.04. And that is the December report.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Would any members like to entertain a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we accept the treasury report with any necessary corrections if there be any.
Thank you, Past President.
Second.
Was that you, Madam, or Sister Dunkley?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. There's a motion on the floor. It's been properly moved that we adopt this report as presented, subject to any corrections or audit. Is there any further discussion? Are there any questions? Are there any comments? Are there any concerns? Okay, sensing none, will all those members in favor of the motion on the floor, would you please say aye?
Aye.
All those members that oppose, please say nay. And any members abstaining? Thank you. Madam Secretary, please let the record reflect that the December financial report was a unanimous vote. All right, folks, my technology is not working with me, so just bear with me. I'm going to do the very best that I can. If I forget something, I apologize. I'm going to ask you for grace in advance. At this time, I am looking for a couple members to help with the annual audit. We need to stand up a finance committee every year as part of the state and national bylaws. We have to submit documentation. We have to submit our bank statements and just indicate that all is well in our branch. Of course, these documents have already been reviewed by your executive committee each month, and each month has also been properly reviewed by the membership. And so really this is just a formality to just ensure that the ending balances are the same as the starting balances. Our checks were issued in sequential order. Just some basic housekeeping with our finances. So at this time, would there be a couple members that are interested in joining this audit committee? I promise it would not be more than 2 hours of your time. If you're interested in joining, would you please come off mute and identify yourself, or you can place it in the chat. We just need about 2 more people if anyone has an hour or 2 to spare over the next couple weeks.
Tanya, I will help out.
Was that you, Miss Graham?
LaTanya McGowan.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McGowan. We really appreciate that. Again, it's really just a formality just to make sure that the financial records are in order. And thank you, at-large member, for your support as well. Do we have one more member that might be able to join this committee?
I see Nadia has volunteered.
All right, thank you so much. If you change your mind, again, this is light lifting in comparison to the rest of the work that we do. I encourage you to join that committee just to ensure that all is well in the Treasury. All right, at this time, I'd like to bring up our at-large member, Nadia Conyers. Would you mind coming up and telling us a little bit about the Youth Council and what you've been working on?
I'm sorry, say that again, President.
Yeah, would you mind just providing a brief update to the members on the youth council?
Absolutely. I am so sorry. I am double tag teaming on meetings. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
Wonderful. We do have some of our young people from our youth council on. We have all of our paperwork set and ready to go to submit for our chartering of our youth council, reactivating our youth council. It will be going out this week, and we should know in about 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll be on a roll. We have 26 members who are active and ready to go with us. We also have a list of other members who are interested in joining the youth council once we get up and going. Our retreat will be in February. We're looking at the 3rd week of February for our initial members along with the executive council. Mr. Miles, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here. I'm present.
Okay. So Mr. Miles, Jaden Miles is our president of our youth council. He has been very instrumental in getting us up and running and staying the course to make sure that we're successful. Would you like to introduce yourself and share anything this evening with the general body members?
Absolutely. So I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Jaden Miles Richardson. I'm 17 years old. I'm currently a senior at the Arlington Career Center High School. And as noted, I'm going to be the president of the Youth Council for the Arlington branch. I'm very excited to do so. There's a lot of work to be done with youth in Arlington, and I'm very excited to, be able to get out there and be able to, connect with the community at other high schools, and just not even other high schools, but high schools, middle schools, and just help to, do a lot of work around the community.
No, we don't want to take up too much time, but they did take time out of our normally scheduled meeting to get onto the general body member meeting. Do we have any other members from the youth council on the call this evening?
I believe there should be. I believe our vice president Watt is here. I think I don't know if you can pin him.
I'm right here. Hello, everyone. My name is Ahmad Ali, and I'm just going to do a quick introduction. I'm also 17 years old. I go to the Career Center with John. I'm a senior as well. I'm the vice president of the up-and-coming branch, and like John, I'm excited to get started on working on issues that are prevalent to the youth and working with the youth on these issues.
Thank you, Ahmad. I know Nazik just left. Is Dell on the call?
Yes, I'm on the call. My name is Del Conyers. I'm 14 years old, and I go to Washington Liberty High School. I'm also part of the council, and I'm happy to be working on helping each other with issues.
Awesome. Did I miss anyone on the call? Anybody? Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Jaden.
No, I don't think Marlene could make it today. So
Okay, not a problem. But thank you so much, President Heminger, for your continued support in this effort of getting the youth council off of the ground. This will be one more success that our branch will have under our belt for the 2024-2025 program year. And we look forward to joining the general membership more frequently and look for some more volunteer opportunities with us. We'd love to connect with all of the various committees.
All right, thank you. Folks, if you wouldn't mind just giving a big round of applause to at-large member Conyers and President Richardson. When this administration came into office last year, one of our priorities was to stand up one of the most robust youth councils in the entire Commonwealth. So as you heard tonight, we're at 26. We're on the way to 50 and in conversations with 50, but mark my words, in a couple weeks, we will be standing up again, the largest, most robust youth council in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I have no doubt that these young people are going to do really outstanding things. So thank you to, again, to at-large member Conyers, and thank you, President Richardson, for all that you've done and all that you will do. I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge our elected officials on the call. And I apologize in advance. My technology is not working with me, but I see that we have Commonwealth Attorney Degani Tapti with us. Are you with us this evening?
I am. Hello, everyone.
Good evening, Madam Commonwealth Attorney. Would you like to address the membership for a couple minutes?
Well, I hadn't prepared anything, but I appreciate everybody being here, and I look forward to hearing from Chair Garvey and Chair Priddy this evening. And folks, remember that I'm here and happy to have regular meetings with any of the subcommittees, and always open to have individual one-on-ones with any of the members of the NAACP.
Thank you, Madam Commonwealth Attorney. I see we have school board member with us. Madam Miranda Turner, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Madam School Board Member, would you like to brief the membership with a couple words?
I also did not prepare anything, but very glad to be here, not in any sort of official capacity tonight. That's Mr. Priddy, who's coming up, but I wanted to jump in and keep tabs on what's going on. And the Youth Council sounds really exciting. So I'm glad I joined the meeting tonight.
All right. Thank you, School Board Member Turner. We appreciate you being with us. Did I miss any of our elected officials? We'll hear shortly from the chair of our county board and also the vice chair of our school board. Are there any others with us this evening?
I do not believe so at this time.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. Ms. De Peña, are you with us this evening? All right, I know she was going to join to provide a brief update on a project that we're working on together. If she joins later, we'll be happy to bring her up. Madam Secretary, am I missing any important announcements before we get to the business of the meeting?
No, you're not. Thank you.
Okay, great. At this time, I'd like to bring up the chair of our county board. Are you with us, Madam Chair?
I am.
All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How's it going?
Just fine. It's great to be here. And I too, I'm so glad I tuned in and heard about the Youth Council. It's really exciting and got to meet several of the, or at least, see several of the members. Very exciting. Glad you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited. Again, we're going to do big things. We welcome you on behalf of all of our members in the executive committee for being here with us this evening. And at this time, I'd like to yield the floor to you for any remarks or presentation that you'd like to provide.
Thank you. And I know I was invited to give 20 minutes of remarks. I don't want to listen to myself for 20 minutes, so I'm not going to go that long, but happy to put that amount of time over into questions because I'd love to know what people are interested in. And I think I was invited to talk a little bit about my priorities for the year, so I'll go over that pretty quickly. So anybody who's followed me will know that, but it's been a long time. When I first ran for school board in 1996, one of my issues was equity in the schools. And that's kind of been a theme throughout my career. When I became chair in 2020, I had 3 themes as chair: equity, innovation, and resilience. We ended up getting into the pandemic, and in some ways, all we did all year was equity, innovation, and working on making our community resilient. And now here I am, chair again in 2024, and I don't think there's a need to reinvent the wheel. I thought equity, innovation, and resilience worked pretty well, so that's what those are the themes again that I have for this year. One of the reasons I picked the resilience, and really equity and innovation kind of fall under that, is it's just fascinating when you look at what makes a community resilient. And I will recommend to folks the Rockefeller Foundation's 100 Resilient Cities. And they had a grant for cities around the world. And you can see it starts, I think, with Accra, Ghana, and then it goes down to, I keep meaning to look it up, but there's a city that starts with Z. I think it's in New Zealand. And anyway, they all did a grant looking at how they could be resilient and looking at 2 different kind of crises. There's a critical kind of resilience that you're resilient when you have a shock, when something just kind of happens suddenly, like a major storm, like we've had the derecho or a hurricane. And then there's just a chronic issue that you have that's keeping you from being resilient. And interestingly enough, the 2 chronic issues that pretty much every city around the world picked were equity and climate change. The issue with equity, and it's why I think it's so important, I think good government just is equitable. The issue with equity is that if you've got a community that's split, where it doesn't feel equitable, people don't feel like it's fair, people don't pull together and they don't come together. They're separated. And then when you have a crisis where you need everybody to pull together, the community's not there and it makes you less resilient. So I think that's kind of cool that actually it's recognized around the world how important equity is to being resilient and to thriving. Innovation, I view as just sort of simply a way of looking at what are barriers, to getting things done. And sometimes we don't see those barriers, and it's really important to see them. I would even say, in some ways, that's what systemic racism is. We've had systemic racism. It's been so systemic, nobody sees it. Now we do, in part because of the work of the NAACP and many other people, but more and more it's seen for what it is. And that's a barrier that we have to take it down. But that's kind of what I view as innovation, is seeing these kind of barriers and taking different ways to change things, to make things better. So those are my overall themes for the year. I have two projects that I'm working on. One of them is Arlington 2050, which is a kind of visioning exercise for the community, looking at where we want to be in 2050. Arlington does not have a strategic plan. I've long thought that we should, and I'm hoping this will actually be the foundation for that. What I'm starting with is trying to bring as many ideas to the table as possible about what people want Arlington to look like in 2050. I don't think this community is going to be completely on the same page. I think the whole issue with missing middle showed that. And in fact, I think missing middle showed the need to have this kind of visioning process. There were all kinds of arguments about zoning and missing middle and what we were doing, but those arguments weren't so much about the tools that, the missing middle zoning was a tool to get us to a place, but we hadn't been really explicit about where it was that we're going. And this is an effort to make it explicit about where we're going and really have those major discussions, not arguing about a tool, but arguing, if we will, or at least having discussions. I hope it won't be too argumentative about where it is we want to go. So we're embarking on a process to gather as much information as we can from people. We're looking for even pictures about what people want Arlington to look like, ideas and thoughts. We're going to be working on it all year. There is a kickoff that we're having this coming Monday in a week, and it will be held at Amazon. It's a panel discussion. We have a climatologist, and that's Jason Samanow of the Post. And we have a demographer, and that is Hamilton Lombard of the Weldon Cooper Center at UVA. Those two I've picked because I wanted to have a climatologist and a demographer, because where we're going to be for the climate and for demography in 2050 is kind of baked in. And I think if we're going to think about where we want to be in 2050, we have to think a little bit about what's the situation we're going to be in. So those two will be there. And then I have an educator coming and talking about education for the future. And that is President Washington of George Mason University. And then finally, someone to talk about the economy and business and where they see us going. And that is Steve Hartel of Amazon. So we'll have a panel discussion with these four panelists, some questions back and forth, and then we will break for dinner. We're going to do assigned seating. And I hope many of the people here are able to come. We'll do assigned seating, and we're going to spread people around. So hopefully you'll be at a table where maybe one person, but not everybody, and have some discussion over dinner. At the table, there will be postcards, and we're calling them postcards from the future. And we're going to be asking people to write on the postcard as if you're writing to Arlington 2024 from Arlington in 2050. In other words, you can say, "Dear Arlington 2024, here I am in Arlington in 2050, and I just love it because." And we're hoping that's going to prompt some thought. And if people want to just draw pictures, that's fine too. It doesn't all have to be words. So I'm excited about this process. We haven't worked out all the details. We're hiring a consultant to help bring in the information. We're trying very hard not to do it quite the way we always have before, where we often get people together in a room with sticky notes, and that can be good. And we'll probably do some of that. I think we'll do some pop-ups. And as I say, we want to get some nonverbal ways that people can participate as well. So we'll be working on that actually throughout the whole year. So hoping that folks with the NAACP can weigh in on what you all want Arlington to look like in 2050, as well as everybody else. In the end, all of those ideas are going to get collated into about, I think it'll be two or three different visions for Arlington. And then we'll have those three visions. I think that's as far as we'll probably get this year. But then the following year, the task would be to pick which vision do we want, and then how do we get there. One of my favorite sayings is Yogi Berra's, "If you don't know where you're going, you won't get there." So I think it's important we think a lot, really intentionally, about where it is we want to go, what it's going to be like, and how we're going to get there. And then the other issue that I'm working on that hasn't gotten nearly as much attention, and we're still working on that. I think we're going to call it Empower Arlington, and that's energy resiliency. That has a huge equity component to it. If you have been looking at the news over the past year, it's been pretty horrible and upsetting. And actually, I've found I even sometimes just don't read the news anymore because I just need to take a break from it. But an overall theme on all these horrible things happening around the world is the lack of electricity or power. So some of us will remember Hurricane Maria a number of years ago. 500 people died after the hurricane, not from the hurricane, but because their oxygen machines didn't work, or their medicine, other kinds of medicines and things they had the equipment was not working because there was no power. Lahaina in Hawaii, what was so horrible about that? There was not good information. The cell phone towers were down. Power wasn't there. People didn't have cell phones. They couldn't communicate. If you look at what's happening in Ukraine, what is it that Putin goes after? It's the infrastructure, the electric power infrastructure, among other things. All of the horror of Gaza, much of that is hospitals without power. So power is a huge thing. Electricity is huge for modern civilization. And I think we all need to think a little bit about what it would be like if the power went out here, not for just a couple of hours, but maybe for a few days, a few weeks, a few months. And I don't think we're very prepared for it. As some of you may see in following the news, it actually, people with it just takes one person with a machine gun, sort of aiming kind of in the right place to take down a transmission station, energy transmission station. They're incredibly vulnerable. It doesn't take very many to take out the whole grid, and it could be down for weeks. So I don't feel like we're very prepared to deal with that. So I've been working on finding ways to do some solar in the county with county buildings and what I call solar light. Again, we're still kind of working on this. I'm doing it. I'm making myself a guinea pig, if you will. I have my 95-and-a-half-year-old mother. She'll be 96 in May with me. She cannot take a temperature that's not 75 degrees. No matter how cold or hot it is outside, she needs it to be 75 degrees in the house because she doesn't control her body, as many older people have trouble doing. And I realized what danger she'd be in if the power went out for even any kind of length of time. So I am working on getting a small, which they have now, small solar battery, small solar array, calling it solar light, to just power a few crucial things in the house. So if the power should go out for whatever reason, some another derecho, a big storm, domestic terrorism, whatever, that there'll be enough power in the house for her to get by. And I think more and more people can do that. I'm hoping to get information out and encouraging people to do that because our most vulnerable people are the ones that are going to have the most difficulty should the power go out for any length of time. I think I've talked on for a long time. Those are my two, so the overall themes and my two kind of major projects, both the visioning and the energy resiliency. And I think I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be reading the notes or not, but I'll just stop here. If there's some questions in the chat or something I should answer, I'm happy to do that, or however you want to handle questions, Mr. President.
Sure. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. We are running a bit ahead of schedule. So folks, if you have questions, I encourage you to drop them in the chat. We did get a couple that got sent over, and we did get a few that came in advance. So the first question that we have, and it's a two-part question, so I'll let you answer the first part and go to the second one. But how are you and the county board currently prioritizing racial equity?
Well, equity is racial equity. We have our chief equity officer. We're doing training and we're trying to take it to the next level, and we're trying to, monitor it. And you will see conversations about equity and how our budget advances equity in our budget conversations. So those are some ways that we're doing it. As I say, to me, equity is just about good government, period.
I love that you talked about the Chief Race and Equity Officer. That was actually the part 2. And it says Samia Bird was the first person to hold this position of Chief Race and Equity Officer for Arlington County. She has since taken on a different role, and our members are wondering what is next for the Chief Race and Equity Officer position in Arlington.
So that's Amber Barnett, I believe is her last name. She's just continuing the work. She worked with Samia. I think she's going to be great. In fact, I think I'm meeting with her. I've already met with her once since becoming chair. I'm going to be meeting again and looking at doing more work with the board office. I actually am delighted that Samia has because Samia's done great work, but the way the equity work is going to work is it gets completely infused into the organization, and having someone like Samia in a different position constantly thinking about that is really crucial, I think, to really getting it diffused throughout the whole organization. So we're just continuing, and we're not going to solve this problem right away, but we are continuing to be committed to it, talking about it, measuring it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next question is, what are you and the board currently doing to ensure that our community doesn't have to face another preventable death in the detention center?
We're working with the sheriff and helping to support him to find good medical care in the jail. It is an extremely difficult issue. Our jail, and we need to be, I mean, as a society, we need to really be honest with ourselves. Our jails are really mental health hospitals. Most people getting mental health treatment are getting them in our jails and prisons. It's just it's a major problem that we have in this country. A lot of people who come to the jail are in very, very poor health to start with, and they're in very fragile health conditions. And the jail, of course, has not been set up to be a hospital, but it really kind of needs to be. And we're trying to provide the resources that the sheriff needs to put those resources in place. But it is very, very difficult to find the staff. That's the hard thing. It isn't even, no matter how much you pay people, finding someone to do it, as in with mental health and a number of issues that we're facing. It's just hard to find people to do the work. It's difficult work. It's tough work, and absolutely crucial. And has, I think, often traditionally been underpaid. So we're trying to work to address that, but that also is not going to turn around really quickly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think you know that that's a top priority for us. I want to acknowledge in the chat, I do see your questions. I have a couple questions here that have came in before, and I'll do my best to get to the ones in the chat if the chair has the time to answer them. So the next question is, and I'm going to share my screen in a moment, but earlier this month, you said that the recent catch and release policy to crime and punishment must end. We were really alarmed to hear about a catch and release policy here in Arlington. So we issued some FOIA. So bear with me as I try to get this to work. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So just so that I don't get it wrong, I just want to quote it. It says the county's relatively recent catch and release approach to crime and punishment must end. There are instances where police do arrest folks and they end up back on the street pretty quickly and commit crimes again, and that needs to stop. So following that comment, we actually issued some FOIAs to both you and Arlington County, and these were the responses that we got back. From the county, it said, Arlington County has reviewed its file and has determined there are no responsive records to your request. And then in your response to us, you said, hi, Amy, I was speaking generally from conversations I've had, not with direct knowledge about specific instances or cases. So I don't have specific details, nor do I keep those records. However, and this is where we wanted to follow up, I will see what information is available from other places and get back to you. So we're just wondering if there's been any new information since that email.
So not that I've seen, except to understand that part of it is that we don't keep records that way, apparently. And I wasn't calling it a catch and release policy. I wasn't saying we had a policy. I'm just saying it's been happening. It turns out we don't have great records. The police don't. I think the Commonwealth's attorney may or may not. I believe that there's a request there. Ms. Degani Tafti could maybe talk to that. And I know I've talked with the manager and said, I think we need that information. So we're working to get it. When we get it, you will see it. But it's just the way, and sometimes there are good reasons that the files don't go like that, and you can't arrest somebody and then treat them a certain way just because of other times they've been arrested. You have to be careful about that. But I think we are working on getting better information, and I have heard anecdotally that there are places where we've been having issues, and anecdotally I've heard it's the same people, and they get arrested and nothing happens. They're back on the street again. And that is a real problem. It sends a bad message to the region, and we don't want people thinking if you want to commit a crime, come to Arlington because you never get in trouble. So how much truth there is to it, I don't know, but I keep hearing it over and over from people who should know, and it's distressed me. So that's part of the reason I said what I did, and I am looking at it. May take a while, but I'm determined to see what kind of information we can get, and when we get it, we'll share it.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I appreciate that additional context. There was a final part to the statement. I just want to make sure I don't miss it. It says, we know that the police and Commonwealth's attorney do not make the decision to release anyone, and ultimately that power rests with our judges. We're not hearing that people reoffending after we're not hearing that people are reoffending after they've released, and hoping that you could give more information. So I appreciate that context. The next question is, At the November county board meeting, the county board decided to do or decided what to do with last year's carryover funds. This included funds related to after-school programming to help our kids stay off drugs and to provide meaningful after-school programming. You voted against the motion to increase funds for $250,000, and our members are hoping that you can provide more context on that decision not to increase funds for opioid intervention.
Sure. I did increase it, just I didn't increase it over and above a certain amount. Actually, what I didn't want to do was put in the money that staff didn't think that they could manage to spend well in the period of time. And the reason was that, you know, I know it seems like all you need is the money and then you can just do it. But actually it doesn't work that way. It takes a while to figure out how best to spend the money. And if you can't spend it well, you don't spend it. If you've obligated it for something, then it can't be spent on something else. So I didn't want to obligate more money than our staff thought they could usefully use in this year. And that was where that was. If I knew that money could be well spent, I'd be totally for it. But we're doing a gap analysis. We're looking at things. One of the biggest problems, I think, is tier 1 and tier 2 with our youth that are having issues. Some of them are addicted, and it's really hard to find the services and the support. And again, that comes down to hiring the people that can do the work. We're really facing a crisis. I mean, it's the region, it's nationally, it's everywhere. And like in the region, people kind of, hire people away and they've got the same people kind of going around. There's just a small pool of people that can do this work, and it's absolutely crucial. So that's it. It was really not wanting to tie up money that could be used for other things if it couldn't be used for this.
Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to do two things at this point. I wanted to let our members know that on February 7th at 7 p.m., there's a coalition of community partners that's going to be meeting at Kenmore Middle School. The county did ultimately approve $750,000 in a one-time pilot. So we are incredibly grateful for those funds. And we're really going to make a big presentation on the 7th at Kenmore Middle School. So I want to invite all of you that are on the call tonight to show up. At this point, we're expecting about 300 people to be at that meeting. We know over 100 students have committed to be there as well. So this is a very important community action. Again, February 7th at 7 p.m., Kenmore Middle School. We're going to continue to have this conversation. Madam Commonwealth Attorney, I don't want to put you on the spot, and I know you're not a part of this conversation, but did you want to provide any brief remarks on the catch and release policy that's being mentioned?
Well, there is no catch and release policy, and
which I said, please don't call it a policy. It's not a policy.
With all due respect, Chair Garvey, you called it a policy, and it's also impossible, like actually physically impossible, to do anything like catch and release in Virginia, because the Commonwealth's attorneys don't get involved in a case until the bond hearing, which happens after the arraignment, which happens after a bond determination by a magistrate judge, which happens after the police take somebody in before the magistrate judge and swear out a warrant, and the magistrate judges will at that point make an independent determination about whether or not there's probable cause.
Who decides to charge them? That may be a confusion on my part. Who decides whether or not charges should be?
The magistrate judges.
Okay, you don't do anything with that.
We have nothing to do with that at the initial stages. And the magistrate judges are hired by a state agency, and they don't have the same requirements of living in a community that our general district court and circuit court and JDR judges do. And they're not accountable to anybody in the county. They're not accountable to me or the circuit court or the county board or anybody else. They're accountable to their central agency in Richmond, which is a whole different problem.
So you're saying that's where it's happening. The magistrates are a problem?
Catch and release is not happening. So it's simply not happening. What I'm trying to do is explain the process, which is that police will take a person in if it's an arrest on the spot, as opposed to like a murder or a more serious case where the person is not there and they're getting the warrants to go out and arrest them. If they've arrested somebody, they bring them to the magistrate's office. They tell the magistrate what happened under oath. The magistrate then makes a determination of whether or not to issue warrants. Once they issue warrants, if the person is with the police, they will get the individual will get booked, and the magistrate will make a determination about whether or not the person gets bond, any kind of bond, whether that's personal recognizance, whether that's being on the sheriff's release program, whether that's unsecured bond, which is you have to pay a certain amount of money if you don't show up, or whether it's secured bond, which is cash bail. So the magistrates make that initial determination. If that happens on a Thursday night, for example, that person will get arraigned Friday morning in General District Court, and they're appointed counsel at that point. If it's not a long weekend, the chances are their counsel will have filed a bond motion and they'll have a bond on Monday morning. If it's a long weekend, they're not going to have a bond hearing, or if their counsel doesn't make a bond motion, they're not going to have a bond hearing until whenever is the next available business date that their counsel makes a motion. That's the point at which the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office gets involved. So we, at that point, ideally have police reports. We have their criminal record. We have the risk assessment that's done by the sheriff's office, and we have input. If there's a victim, we make every effort to make sure that we've heard from the victim by the point of the bond hearing, and we share that input with the court. And we share with the court we always share with the court the criminal record. We share with the court what the risk assessment recommendation was, what the risk factors are, and what our position is on the bond. And we don't ever ask for cash bond. We don't ever ask for somebody to have a secure bond, because we don't want somebody's liberty to be tied into whether or not they can afford to get out. We want it to be tied to whether they're a risk factor of coming back to court or not coming back to court, or whether they
attorney.
Or if they're a danger to the community. And we've asked to hold people that the judges have released on a secure bond, and we've asked to release people that judges have held. So, what we ask for does not necessarily determine what the outcome is. It's all going to depend on the facts of the case.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and keep us moving along. This is a very important issue, and you can rest assured that our branch will continue to follow this very closely. Madam Commonwealth Attorney, I want to thank you for just being able to jump in, and Madam Chair, thank you for providing that additional context. I wanted to follow up on something that you said about the gap funding. At that November meeting, we learned that $54 million was the annual budget for the Department of Parks and Rec. And I just wonder if you could provide us an update on that gap analysis. Is it done, complete, ready to review, or is it still in process?
No, it's not. I haven't seen it, so I don't think it's done and complete. I know it's taking longer than any of us wanted. It should be close. And the gap analysis for people, we're looking at what are the programs that we already do. Sometimes we'll talk to folks and, well, you should do this and this. Well, actually, we do that. Yes, we do that. So sometimes it's a communication issue. We actually have a lot going on. And one of the reasons that we're sort of trying to be careful is it may not be that we need to start a new program. Then we just need to do a better job of what we have now, or, getting it out more. So when that comes in, we'll see. But what we're trying to look at is what do we have now, and where are the places that people are falling through the cracks, because there's not something that ought to be there. That's what that analysis is meant to come from. I have not seen it yet, so I assume it's not finished. You'll see it soon after we do, I think.
Okay, awesome. We appreciate that update. We've got a couple more. Do you have time for a couple more?
I do, but before, I don't want to forget, the Youth Council, I would love to extend a personal invitation to them to come to that event on Monday if they can. We're really trying to we've invited student leadership from our high schools, and trying to find different student groups to have young people there, because let's face it, 2050, that's going to be their world. I may not, maybe I'll be here. My mother's 96 almost, but that's going to be their world. And I would love to have some, more young people there. So they're certainly invited if they would like to come.
Awesome. Thank you for that invitation. I'll be sure to pass it along to our advisor if she's still on. So the next one is Arlington County has made efforts to change its logo, which was previously rooted in racism. Great progress has been made across most divisions in the county except the police department. While other vehicles have been updated, the county police still drive around with the old racist logo. When will the police transition to the new logo?
as the cars are redone and repainted. I mean, that was part of the thing when we voted, the manager said, we're not gonna just like take everything out and like change it all instantly, because that's quite an expense. So as new cars are done, then the new logo is put on. It's just a matter of not trying to waste taxpayer money.
Thank you. In 2017, Arlington County produced Destination 2027, the report. This then led to the 2019 Equity Resolution. We are now more than halfway to 2027, yet many of the goals identified in Destination 2027 have not been started or accomplished. A 10-year life expectancy in Arlington remains. A 10-year life expectancy difference remains.
Yeah.
Why should we be focused on a 25-year plan when we have been unable to accomplish the goals in the 10-year plan?
That's a good question. I'm trying to look at not just that plan, but more to it. And frankly, if the goal is to have everyone be healthy, which I think it would be, and not to have those gaps, then you're going to need still to look at how do we get there. And that's a matter of implementing it. So I think it's caught up in that discussion. People could disagree, but I totally see that as part of it, because what the idea is to where do we want to be, and then how do we get there? And Destination 2027 help lay out some steps to get there. But again, these are big changes. It won't happen instantly.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. I think I'm done with the prepared questions. I'm just going to the chat now. Past President, I think you were first. Did you want to raise your question briefly?
It's in the chat, but Madam Chair, and I think you already said something about our youth, so thank you for our youth. But my question dealt about, and thank you for the invite as well to the event. For the 2050 kickoff event, have we extended a invitation to those persons suffering with a disability, early career professionals, or those that may need some ASL interpretation? I'm just curious about the environment and if there's going to be accommodations made for those type of those people in our community.
Excellent question. I'm not sure. I'm sure that invitations have been extended to our Disability Commission, because the way we extended, just so people know, because people have asked us, what I figured first was we should basically go ex officio, which means, people because of their title. So we tried to get as many groups as we could in the county and have the leadership get an invitation and sort of make sure that we did that first. That seemed sort of like proper etiquette, what we should do. And that would certainly have included the head of the Disabilities Commission. And then now we're opening it up much more. And again, we tried to find leadership with our schools, and now we're opening it up much more. We actually had great testimony during our board report. Takas, my colleague, my vice chair, Karen Tonas, brought a gentleman from the Disabilities Commission in to talk with us about, difficulties and things that we could do to make things better, which was great. So I think that's an important voice in our community. And I've been pushing for a long time, actually, better buses access, because we have accessible buses, but not all the bus stops work. And we need to do a better job in that. But I appreciate you bringing that up, and I'll check with David Barrera, who's kind of honchoing the whole thing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think back over to you, Mr. President. Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Jeremiah Howard says, you were reportedly opposed to Patrick Hope's HB 1225, which would allow the county board district representation rather than at-large representation. Would you discuss your reservations about the bill, please?
Absolutely. It has a whole lot more than that. It's just putting a whole lot of, like, our whole form of government. So districts, whether a chair is appointed for, from the board or else elected at large. There's not much on implementation, how you would actually do it. And there are a lot of changes in there. And I think those are absolutely worthy changes to consider and talk about. And I totally envision those getting folded into, into this current discussion that we're having in Arlington 2050. So that's supposed to be part of the discussion. And I would much prefer to have a discussion with the community and see where people are and get the idea out there before we kind of spring it on people. And it feels like it needs to be thought through and discussed. These are not small changes. We've got a lot going on right now, and I would like to be doing it in a, an intentional way that brings in the whole community, not just a small group of people. So I'm not necessarily against even anything the bill wants to do. It's just on how it's being done. And I would hope that, I'm hoping that Delegate Hope is okay to lay it over for another year while we work it through with this process. And I think we've told him too. I mean, if he or a lot of this comes out of the Civic Federation or the NAACP, I know you've got support, want to actually host special discussion groups on this particular issue as part of 2050, I'm happy to facilitate that and help make that happen. So if you all would like to do that, let me know. I really want everybody talking about all these ideas, but it's just important to have everybody at the table, not a small group of people, particularly when you're talking about such major changes like this. It's just, you just don't spring something like this on people when they haven't had a chance to sort of think it through and work it through. And I think we can have a great discussion over this year about it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to read a statement, then I'll bring us home with Mr. Lander. I see your hand is raised. So our branch brought this before our executive committee, and here's a statement that we produced. Arlington's current form of government was established in 1930. It was a time when physical walls were erected to divide our community, and a time when racial deed restrictions were used to keep Black people out. It's well documented by many folks and the media that Arlington changed its form of government, in our opinion, to weaken minority participation. 50 years after this change, no single person of color was elected to any county office. In the nearly 100 years that have followed since 1930, only 4 people of color have been elected to the Arlington County Board. The bill is permissive in nature, meaning it would broaden powers available. It's a step towards eradicating the legacies of racism and discrimination that still bind our community even today. So that was a statement from us. We'd be happy to join that conversation and participate.
Yeah, I think one thing that's important, because I understand, I totally agree. That was the point back then. I'm not sure that this would actually address that now. We're a different community than we are. And I'm not sure, I mean, how would you draw the districts to, I'm just not sure it would actually achieve what we want to achieve. So that's that, and I really think we need to think that through. And I understand it's just permissive, but when you put in a bill like that, we have a governor who likes to mess with people, particularly Arlington. It wouldn't take much to put some kind of little amendment in there and suddenly it's not permissive. It's like, we have to do this. It's very dangerous to put that forward, I believe, in the General Assembly, such as it's constituted today. So there's that part of it. But again, the discussion absolutely needs to be had, and we need to think through all of the ramifications and make sure that the goal that we want is actually going to be achieved by this, and we don't get sandbagged by a Republican governor in the process. I really am I'm pretty worried about that possibility.
Thank you. Mr. Lander, and I think there may have been one that I missed in the chat. Did you want to come off mute with your question?
Yes, thank you. Good evening.
Hey, James, how are you?
I'm well. How are you? Happy 2024.
Yeah.
My question is related to the vision of Arlington 2050. What is being put in place in Arlington infrastructure-wise around electric vehicles? And what is the investment and priority with that? I know Alexandria City has made great progress in installing those stations. And I think especially in South Arlington, where we do have space and we do have places that are being built, that the infrastructure could be put in. I wanted to find out, what is the vision and the plan, and how can we get more involved in that initiative?
Yeah, well, there are obviously commissions you can work on. We're trying to put them in where we can. I mean, there's some I know here in Fairland. I don't have an electric vehicle, so I'm not so aware. Every building that gets permitted and built, we require that they put in electric charging stations, and that they're also they're ready to put in more. And the whole issue of the infrastructure for electric vehicles is also huge. Dominion Power probably doesn't have the ability to do as much as we may need. There's a lot going on. It's going to be slow, but you can absolutely advocate. We're trying to put in as much as we can. We're doing a whole bus, for where our facility is down in Shirlington, and that's going to be outfitted so that we can charge electric vehicles and have electric buses. So we're trying. It's sort of slow. It takes a while. There was an agreement with Volkswagen years ago, and this was about 5 years ago now. We were all told that the part of the agreement is Volkswagen was going to be putting in all of these charging stations, and that was going to be great. That was going to help solve our problem. And it hadn't happened. I'm not really quite sure how they weaseled out of it, but they seem to have weaseled out of it because there really isn't much here. So that if it comes down to us doing it, then that's, there's taxpayer dollars. There are things that goes to, that it doesn't go to the mental health problems, to the after school activities. There's a limit to what we can do. We are trying as much as possible when any project is done that we can influence it. That's one of the community benefits that we ask and require for people to do.
All right, thank you. Last question, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. I missed your question in the chat, at-large member. Did you want to go ahead with your question, and we'll go to our Vice Chair for the board next?
Sure. Thank you, Mike. Libby, my question is, when will the county board take action to add source of funds protection to our human rights ordinance to protect renters who rely on housing choice vouchers and housing grants from discrimination?
I think that will be in the budget discussion. We've been briefed by our housing staff, looking at all kinds of ways to make it easier for people to get support. A lot of them are pretty expensive. And they're going to come forward with recommendations, and I believe it's in the context of the budget. I
Okay.
can't tell you if we're going to approve that or not. I can't tell you right now how much it costs. But I
Okay.
believe that's in there, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
I'll follow up with you. Yeah, I'm not
Thank you,
sure.
yeah, because you and
if
I
there's a
think you've
cost
requested
element,
a
but
meeting, and yeah, and I'm
Yep.
sorry, Kathy, I thought Kathy had reached out, but we'll get
No
together
worries. Okay.
before
Thanks, Libby.
your housing meeting. Yeah.
All
Anything
right.
else?
I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Hang on. Bear with me. All right. Madam Chair, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We knew some of those would be some fireballs, but I appreciate the honesty and being willing to answer those questions. There were a couple more that came in that we weren't able to get to. Would it be all right if we sent those over and
Sure.
Okay, great.
Absolutely. No, and thank you for having me. And I think these discussions are great. I really appreciate hearing from people. And again, I hope that youth council can come and some others of you also can come to the Monday event. Would love to have you there. Okay.
Yeah, stay tuned. We're going to do
Thank
great
you. And I may
things.
hang back and eavesdrop on Vice Chair Priddy's
Some
comment.
tough questions.
Okay?
All right.
All right. Let's see if you get
All
some zingers too, Dave. Take care.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'd like to bring up our Education Committee Chair. I believe, Madam Chair, you're a third generation Arlingtonian, is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, born and raised in Arlington, family born and raised, really doing good work, hit the ground running. Incredibly proud of all that you're working on. So, Madam Chair, the floor is yours. Please take it away.
So my children are actually the third generation, sorry. And first of all, Priddy, would you like to speak first, or did you want to just jump into questions? And I'm sorry, Honorable Chair Priddy.
Oh, yeah, I was actually had I was going to go over some high level stuff with the school board, like what we do, and then I was going to go into like some more like local initiatives that are more pressing for the audience here. So you know, that's up to you, whichever one you would like me to do. But yeah, I'm prepared to speak on the on what we do, as in if that's all right.
Well, I do have tons of questions, and the one at the end was for you to give us your information. So I think I'll go with questions first, because I think a lot of people are really wanting to know the answer to this. And the first one is that there's a local crisis regarding drugs and overdosing in Arlington. And we just want to get this one out of the way. So what are your plans and programs that have been put in place to immediately address this issue?
To immediately address the issue, I mean, I think it's if you look at it as an overall picture, it's not just an APS issue; it's an issue that everybody needs to deal with, and it's a community issue. And so we have come together, as you know, with what happened last year. We came together and got all of our. We quickly instituted a program to make kids more knowledgeable and to have more kids understand what is actually the finite piece of actually you know, if when you take a pill and it's not just fun anymore, it could be your death. And that was a message that needed to be sent to everybody, and we are reinforcing it with peer groups, with just a lot of levels that we have added. We've added deans of students to help with the understanding and the infrastructure in APS to have more people available for the students.
Okay, thank you. Now, next question is regarding disciplinary data that you all have presented out on your dashboard. There are tons of disparities, and we were wondering, why do we have such a disparity in disciplinary actions taken against our students, and how do you plan to eliminate these disparities regarding the discipline going forward?
Well, I think it starts with knowledge. So you had NAACP had Dr. Crawford on a couple months ago, and she was our chief of diversity officer in APS, and we've done a bunch of things as she identified then, but most importantly, we've instituted mandatory implicit bias training for all employees. And with that, we are trying to establish systemic, proactive, and positive strategies, interventions, restorative justice practices that support student learning and well-being in all areas involving student conduct. We also integrate the culturally relevant concepts and practices into all levels of school interactions. In fact, the school board itself is going through this implicit bias training part 2 in a couple weeks. So it is something that we're promoting throughout APS with the intention that the mindset will change.
Thank you. Now, this is a topic that's very important to all of us, which is the current climate and culture within APS as a whole, and specifically within individual schools. But the morale is horrible, and we'd like to know what's being done to address the very low morale across the board. That's specifically with teachers, staff, and administrators, and the lack of trust and positivity that the families feel regarding how APS is operating, and also like to know like why the special ed families and marginalized families are seemingly feeling unseen and unheard.
I don't know why they feel that way. I mean, APS offers a myriad of ways to engage with us. And obviously trust in the community is something that we strive for and that we'd like to be partners with our parents, and we'd also like to have a staff that's happy to come to work every day, because that also means that our students are learning at the same time because they're happy to teach them as well. In terms of morale, I think we could always do better, especially as an employer. The board has authorized compensation increases the last couple of years, and we've made it so that we've bridged the delta between the other localities, and we hope that is a step in the right direction as to promote trust within our staff. And school to school, there are different climates in different schools, and so we have to, with each school community, they have their own piece of trust that they have. So, for instance, I have a kid at Jefferson, and that's different than my kid that goes to HB. So it's hard to lump them all together into the different conversations, but each one does carry their own.
Thank you. Next question is, what efforts are in place to attract and retain racially diverse educators within APS?
Well, specific to the HR recruitment piece, we now have different HR processes where we can, it used to be where we would go to job fairs and we'd go recruit folks, and we would hire, we wouldn't be able to hire them on the spot. We would have to wait till the budget got allocated and approved. And now we have changed that to where there are certain positions where we can just go up there and give offer letters right then. So that's one we have changed. Another thing we have done, in which we monitor, is having our assistants that move up to teachers, and having a program that trains people to get higher up on the level.
Thank you. Now, how can you assure that our school system meets the unique, diverse needs of all students, since it's always indicated in the mission and vision that they're our number one priority?
Well, that's always what you strive for. I mean, that's why we're here, is to to have identify each child by name and need and strength, and that's what the superintendent has been promoting the last 2 years as in what we do. There's been a bunch of different initiatives. I'd say the one about having a trusted advisor in school, in a school that a student can go to, is one of the initiatives that has actually come up and been promoted and actually worked very well for us. So that if something is going awry, that the student has somebody to talk to make amends and to figure out what's going on.
Thank you. And what is APS doing to support social emotional learning for our students? And let me see. Coming from our vantage point, the students are in crisis and need to be seen, heard, and reached before it's too late. And also wanting to know what are the measurable effects of what you're doing to support this effort.
Yeah, so this is where I don't know if Chair Garvey is still on, but we have we did an MOU with the county for a school-based behavioral health program MOU, and I think it was done back in September, and we wanted to affirm the relationship between APS and DHS, Arlington County Department of Human Services. That's DHS. So we have an agreement with DHS for clinicians to provide behavioral health in APS schools, and the plan is to have 4 clinicians, but they'll be assigned to APS high school programs, and we are still hiring for those. These are actually hard positions to fill. So, but we do have that in place. Additionally, APS has partnered with Hazel Health for mental health, and which is now available to support students' mental well-being. This is grades 9 through 12 without any out-of-pocket costs for families. And through this, students can speak with a therapist from the convenience of their own homes. The Hazel Health, they provide the same quality care for students who are insured and uninsured, as well as for students of all immigration statuses. So that's a step in the right direction that we've done.
I'm still here, and that's an excellent response. I just want to say we are working very closely together. I talk with David once a month. I talk with all of our school board colleagues. Staff talks all the time. We're really committed to do whatever we can to help solve this crisis with our youth. We're really committed to that. So, thank you.
Okay, now thank you. What specific actions or policies do you support or oppose regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion in education?
That's a hard question to answer because I'd have to see. As part of the I'm the vice chair of our policy subcommittee, so normally we see the policies as they come up and then we revise them to make them more equitable or to be a sign of the times since a lot of them have been done in the past. So I don't know that I can actually answer which policies that is. I can tell you that the framework for what we are doing in the past 4 years with having what was the CDEIO, now the Chief Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer, and now and to have this implicit bias training, to have trainings for and where the piece where we're really cognizant now of how to go about this, and I don't know that we were like that before.
So we have a question that says a comment and a question. Studies have indicated that mandated implicit bias training is marginally effective at best. Is anything else being done to address the bias issue?
Yeah, I would question the studies, but yeah, but it's an overall culture piece too at the same time. By identifying people, by understanding that we all come from different places and we all learn differently, it promotes us to be more aware of that, and that's part of the message that gets through.
Okay, this one is what happened to the pause in the virtual learning program, and is it ever coming back?
Well, with the virtual learning program a couple of years ago, we tried to create a virtual school as one school system, and that we didn't do a good job at it. And so we paused it and evaluated and realized there are a lot more factors that need to go in order to create a robust virtual learning program.
So does that mean you don't foresee it coming back, or you're working on it for the future?
Not in that same vein. There's Virtual Virginia is being used, and that's a tool that we can utilize. But I don't see an actual like school for virtual learning program made anytime soon. No.
Okay, I don't see anything in the chat. So the last question was, are there any unmet educational needs that you feel need to be addressed, and what are they? And then you could also feel free to share what you had
Okay.
prepared.
Well, I guess unmet educational needs, that actually ties into our budget because each year we're doing the budget. The superintendent's going to come out with his proposed budget in February 29th. And then we have a process that goes through a couple of months where we have public comment. We have different committees come in and tell us where they think should happen with the budget. And in doing so, we already know preliminarily that the county has announced that the revenues will be lower. And since most of our money comes from the transfer from the county, then we know that our pool of money is going to be less. So when you talk about the piece we need to figure out where that we're going to have to make some hard decisions about what goes on when we have less money to use. So I mean, I guess that goes to your question: when you can't fund a mandate, then it's kind of hard. So we have some challenging months ahead of us coming up.
Okay, you can feel free to share the information you prepared.
Oh, well, this was actually a little bit more fun than what I had. So, I mean, as the higher level, we have our strategic plan, and the strategic plan serves as our roadmap and our focus and guide on our work. And it runs in 6-year cycles, and this cycle is up. So we have the new one will go into effect in 2024, so later on this summer, and run through 2030. So in preparation for that new strategic plan, we've had feedback from students, parents, community members, among others, who have helped shape that guidance. And last month, the school board voted on the mission, the core values, the vision, and priorities that'll be part of the next strategic plan. So now we've shifted that focus to the monitoring and implementation of that strategic plan, and we'll vote on it in June for that finalized version. So, just as the PSA, there are multiple opportunities to provide feedback. The easiest way is through our Engage page. So engage at apsva.us, or just go to the website and it's right there on the front. So just knowing that, and the strategic plan leads into the school board priorities, which for this year, I won't go through all of them because I think we're almost at time. But and then our two main things we're doing this spring is we have the budget and we have our capital improvement plan. So please follow along and provide input so we can get everybody's input on how we go through in the future.
Did you have any more you want to share, or I can give you more questions?
No, I think that's it. I wanted to also mention that we had an update to the MOU with ACPD, with Arlington County Police Department, and the update has been to support student well-being and school safety. A couple of highlights of the changes that happened is we've clarified when and how administrators must call the ACPD for assistance. We have provided guidance for increased collaboration between ACPD and APS communications during a crisis. To that one, we had a tabletop exercise with the county. I think it was back in November or December. I'm getting my months mixed up now, but it was to make sure that all of us are on the same page when a crisis does happen. And so who goes where and what the proper protocols are. So I want to encourage the public to understand that we have rehearsed these, we have gone through them. Let's hope we don't have to go through them, but we are prepared. The last piece on that MOU was to providing increased opportunities for ACPD to support and have positive interactions with students. So just wanted to make sure that was updated, because I know there was a topic of conversation for a while.
Yes, thank you. That was something that our committee raised with the superintendent was safety and well-being of our students, so we appreciate that. And just wondering if there's anything else being done. I know there was some type of forum, I believe, like earlier in the month on that at one of the schools, and just wondering if there's anything else being done with regard to safety, specifically like bus stop safety and safety within the schools with that new safety team that they have.
Oh, well, when you're talking about safety and the buses and schools, that you're going into the our JCTC meetings that actually that Chair Garvey and I used to have. We were the liaisons for that committee. There's a joint transportation committee that meets monthly, and they go through intersections that are causing trouble, or could be hazards. They go through what measures are being made to slow down traffic in certain areas, and we work together with the county to figure out which zones are the ones that are most high traffic and most what do you call it, dangerous for the students, especially walkers to school.
Okay, thank you. Looks like we have a question from former President Spain. Go ahead.
Oh, that was quick. So, hey, David, how you doing? The Honorable David Priddy.
Good, sir. How are you?
Oh, 5 years ago, you were sitting up in the NAACP, and look at you now. Hey, I just want to run this by you since it's been a while. So we heard from our chair of the county board, Libby Garvey, and Honorable Garvey, if you're here, you can chime in as well. So we're going to embark on this 2050 vision and process, right? What is the vision of APS, and how is what's going on in the county board, what they're embarking upon? How are you working together with that? Because it's not just a county board issue, right? It's a whole of community issue. So what are your thoughts? And if the school board is going along with the ride, maybe this is something for Chair Garvey to answer, but I'm just curious.
Well, I think when you look at the vision, since as I mentioned earlier, we get half of our roughly half, half of the county's transfer comes to us, which makes up most of our revenue that we get. So in doing so, we rely on them as a partner. So Mr. Lander asked earlier about the bus stops. I mean, the electric buses and how we were working with that. And part of our CIP this year is that we're doing a feasibility study of what can happen at the trade center. So because we have limited land in Arlington, and so we are going in with the county, we're both bearing that cost of the feasibility study to find out what we can do to maximize our space there, and what there's going into the weeds a little bit too much here, but there is a which fuel we're actually going to use, and then from there we'll figure out how we're and so there is a partnership here, but then we take direction from them and we provide input to the county as well. So I'd say that going towards 2050, there has to be some sort of partnership with us, because we're always in the conversation. I mean, luckily we talk on a regular basis, so it's pretty easy to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and I even so Vice Chair Priddy said that he takes direction from us. Not real. We don't give the school board direction. I mean, we talk about funds that we have very little control, but we talk all the time and try to work together. Certainly, as he says, we're working together on transportation. We can do a much better job than what we're doing, I think. When I was talking about ex officio, all of the school board members received an invitation to the panel, and not that that's the be all end all at all. And we're really hoping they will participate. And as I said, when it comes to education, we do have the president of George Mason University coming, and he will be talking about education. It's a major part of about the whole sort of look to the future. And I hope that the school board will continue to be really active participants, and I'm sure they will be, and we'll be talking a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair.
So we look like we have Jeremiah Howard. Did you have a question?
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am. And Mr. Priddy, thank you very much for speaking to us tonight. My question is a little bit out of left field. The district's truancy crisis appears to be contributing to crime committed in Northern Virginia. Can APS somehow assist the district's effort to control truancy?
So I guess I don't know if those numbers are accurate. I'll take your word for it. But so truancy, would you consider that the same as absenteeism?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because absenteeism is a piece that is actually tracked by the state now. and that we are trying to get the studies have it so where if the more absent you are at school, the worse you do. So the more you're in school, the better you will do in school. And that is a piece that we are actively pursuing, trying to make sure that the students are going to school and not avoiding it. So yes, I would say that, I mean, we are already actively trying to do something about that, the absenteeism piece.
Thank you, sir.
And looks like there's another question in the chat. How are Vision Zero and safe routes to school being incorporated into transportation planning discussions, particularly regarding walking and biking and the work of JCTC and ACTC?
Well, I think I kind of explained that a little while ago about the JCTC. ACTC, I believe doesn't exist anymore. We folded it into the JCTC. So there's that piece, but we have ongoing talks with the county and how to figure out the solutions to the. Got it.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll turn it back over to our president. Thank you so much for attending our meeting and sharing.
Thank you very much, Ms. Alford.
You're on mute, Vice President.
Oh, thank you. I was saying some great things too. I was just saying thank you so much, Vice Chair Priddy, and thank you as always, Madam Education Chair. We really appreciate the conversation, and thank you for your flexibility in taking those questions first.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, a couple more announcements and we're going to get you on your way. At the beginning of the call, I wanted to introduce one of my good friends who's a regional organizer for Voice, just so that you could hear directly from her on the event that's occurring on 2/7 at 7 p.m. We know that opioid and substance abuse and addiction is a big issue. You know, it came up both in the county board discussion tonight as well as the school board. So, Ms. DePena, if you wouldn't mind just kind of telling our members a little bit about what's going to go on the 7th and why should they attend?
Good evening. My name is Lorraine DePena. I'm an organizer with Voice in Arlington. On February 7th, we're going to have an action. And the action comes from, we did listening sessions this school year due to, unfortunately, we continue to have students overdosing. And in 2023, we lost 2 students to the overdoses. Me personally, I didn't see too many people addressing this and I was concerned. So Voice decided we wanted to act on this issue. And at this point, we've listened to almost 300 students across the county from every school, more specifically 6th to 12th graders. And 3 major concerns came from the listening sessions. The first one's more long-term and we'll need help from the state, but hiring more guidance counselors and clinical staff support for the students. The second thing was the want and need for Narcan training and more realistic training and education around substances, what the substances are and what they do to your body. Versus just a black and white, don't do drugs, drugs is bad for you. And lastly, students sharing that not having safe spaces or spaces where there are activities that are interesting to them to do or places to go after school, especially between like 2:30 and 5:30, 6 p.m. A lot of parents are still at work. Children, a lot of them express that they go home to empty homes and either sleep or when you're bored, you go find out what other people are doing. And that also can open the door for bad decisions or things happening. So we put a proposal together with ASHPA and the NAACP that we presented to school board and county board and also Dr. Duran, the superintendent, which was received like with very positive, yes, let's do this. Glad that folks are talking to the youth. So the action is to, so the end of the year, the end of 2023, there was a county board meeting where Voice, after we presented the proposal, asked for funds, and the county did approve $750,000 to be allocated this school year for programs. So yay and thank you, county. But on the 7th, we need more money. The focus is Title I schools. That's where you tend to have the students that are struggling the most. And to run a program in each school is roughly $300,000 to $350,000. So we need funds for FY25 and to keep the programs going every year. Research has proven when you bring things to communities that are lacking, the only thing that can happen is success. So we need folks to come out to show the county board members, school board members, the superintendent, that this entire county is standing to support these children, the youth. The first overdose was one overdose too many. So we need to come together to save these youths. They deserve for us to do this for them. So please come out February 7th, 7 p.m., Kenmore Middle School. There'll be music. There'll be lots of people, a lot of knowledge, information. So yeah, please come out.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. DePina. I look forward to that event.
Thank you.
We're going to get some good work done. All right, folks, we're going to hear from a couple people and we'll get out of here. Before we do, I want to drop a link in the chat, and I'm going to share my screen one more time. At the beginning of our call, I recognized our Silver Life members. So, Madam Secretary, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, folks, our Silver Life members are listed on your screen. To our knowledge, there's only one Gold Life member. That's our past president, JD Spain. But these are our most loyal supporters. They are life members. They never have to pay for their membership again. We're going to do a more robust job this year of just having socials with these members, kind of, having roundtables with the president and our Silver Life members. Again, these are our most loyal supporters. We want to just say a big hearty thank you. And then also for those of you that are still on the call, please remember that you must renew your membership every year. An annual adult membership is only $30. So if you haven't done that in the last 12 months, I want to encourage you to do that. At this time, I'd like to yield to our Housing Committee Chair. I don't know if he's still on. I know he had to run a little early, but Mr. Chair, are you on? All right, doesn't sound like it. If you hop on, we'll bring you back in a moment. Next, we'd like to bring up our Political Action Committee Chair.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Marie. I'm the chair of the Political Action Committee. So on our committee, we've been working to figure out our priorities for 2024. And as usual, we're definitely planning to be very active with our voter engagement work. So we've been starting to plan that out for this year. So the first part of the year, we're going to focus on doing our voter engagement events mostly out in the community. So participating in different events and different grassroots meetings that are happening to share information with voters, provide assistance with voter registration, provide information on early voting and other voting issues such as restoration of rights. So we're looking for events. So if you know of anything that's happening in the community where we could be involved, please reach out to let us know. I'll put our committee email in the chat. But we're also always looking for volunteers to help us staff tables. So if you're interested in coming out and supporting voters and helping to get the word out and get people out to the polls, then we would love to have you as well. And then later in the year, probably more over the summer, we'll focus on doing our door-to-door events at affordable housing properties. And so we want to try to recruit groups that can help to take on properties and do help us out with those events. So if you have a group of people who might be interested in doing that, we would love to hear from you as well and work with you to just tell you more about how it works and really give you a whole training on how to do this. But yes, I will put my email in the chat. And our committee meets the second Wednesday usually of every month at 7. So you're always welcome to come and meet with us too, and talk to us, and share any ideas and any thoughts you have. But I think that's all. Thank you.
Madam Chair, before you go, could you just tell our members that are still with us, how many doors did your committee knock on last year?
We knocked on a lot of doors. I don't have the exact number, but probably over 3,000 doors, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So yeah, we're very active, and it, as you can imagine, it takes a lot of people and it takes a lot of coordination to do. So really any support we can get from our members and anyone else, it's so it's so much fun to go out there and talk to people and help them out and get them engaged with voting. So, we really would love to have more people come and join us in that.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Really appreciate all that you're doing. It's going to be a big year for us. So really looking forward to your efforts. Thank you for your partnership and your leadership. All right. Next up, I'd like to bring our Legal Redress Chair to provide a brief update on criminal justice. Madam Legal Redress Chair, are you with us?
Hi, how are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good. I'm not sure what everyone wants to be updated on. For legal redress, we continue to have a number of former complaints and new complaints that we're going through to help navigate people through kind of the system on how to address issues of discrimination and kind of figure out a path to get some redress for the harm that they feel like they're suffering. Mostly investigating is what it is. In terms of criminal justice, a little bit, we have formally, I think, updated everyone that we extended a proposal to the sheriff for a community advisory group. And we're planning on kind of meeting with the partners who are interested in being participants in that group, hearing some feedback, and then bringing back Sheriff Quiroz to address his interest in forming that group.
All right. Thank you, Madam Legal Redress Chair. For those of you that were with us last month, you'll remember that our branch, both the executive committee and the members, voted to take legal action. So we're still in the early stages of that, and we'll have important announcements coming up in the coming weeks. So I encourage you to join our mailing list, follow us on social media, make sure you're getting our newsletters. We'll also have some big news coming from our housing committee as well. Madam Education Chair, did you want to provide an update on what you're working on in education?
Certainly. I would like to share out that we've met with some schools, and there are some major non-academic issues that are hindering the education process for our students. Specifically, there's a school that even has need for eyeglasses for their students to even be able to see in class to learn. They need food and clothing, and I'm still waiting on more info from the school. The principal is putting me in touch with the social workers so that we can help support their efforts in getting some of their needs met. And once it's coordinated, I would love to see if our whole membership can help in some way with getting the needs met for these students. Also, we are working in collab with Arlington Public Libraries, and we've also pulled in APS regarding the promotion of literacy through a film screening that will be held in the spring. It is called The Right to Read by LeVar Burton. It follows an Oakland NAACP activist, Kareem Weaver, who believes literacy is our most important civil right. And so we are getting, supposedly by this week, our confirmation for our venue, and then we will put out the date, time, and location and hope to see everyone come. The superintendent was super excited when we shared this and extended the invitation to work with him. And that will be about it for now.
All right. Thank you, Madam Education Chair. I see that one of our other county board members has joined us. So I wanted to take an opportunity to recognize our newest member of the board, or one of our newest members of the board, Board Member Cunningham, did you want to provide a couple remarks to the membership tonight?
No, I'm fine. I'm just excited to be here and listen and enjoy the great program as usual. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. All right, let's see. Folks, there's a big announcement that I wish I could share with you, but I can't. Just stay tuned regarding the bathroom in Green Valley. I know if our board member or chair is still on, she'll know what I'm talking about. We're in the final phases of being able to make a really incredible announcement. And so with that, I just wanted to bring us to a close. Past President, I see you're in my chat. Is there anything you wanted to add that I'm missing?
No, that's a negative, Mr. President.
Okay.
I think you have your first VP and second VP your first VP may have something to say, but I'm good. Thank you. Great meeting.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate that. First VP, would you like to address the members tonight?
Yeah, just very briefly. First of all, I'd like to say our political action committee does a tremendous job in terms of voter engagement and outreach. So to further enhance what they're doing and give it additional synergy, I would like every member to consider being an ambassador for voting rights, a personal ambassador, because there are still too many people who are apathetic about voting, too many people who don't see a reason for voting, too many people who don't believe that their vote counts. So I think as we members can take on a role of being an ambassador. Now, an ambassador is going to be neutral politically, but I think it's important to reach out to people. Don't assume that everybody has signed up and is a registered voter. Don't assume that everybody understands the need for voting. So as I think we can further have a continuing impact, one-on-one as we reach out to our friends and to others who are within our scope of influence and encourage more people to vote, because this is a very, very critical year coming up.
I completely agree. Yep, I couldn't agree more, actually. First VP, did you want to brief the members on any of the forums that you're currently working on? Or would you like to do that at a later date?
At a later date would be good.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for all that you do. Second VP, would you like to address the membership this evening?
I don't believe she's on tonight.
Okay, great. Madam Secretary, did I miss anything?
You did not.
Okay, great. Let's bring us to a close. And before I do, I just wanted to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of you on this call and all of you that will watch this recording at a later date. Our branch is blessed and fortunate to be one of the most active, well-resourced branches in the entire country. Other branches across the Commonwealth and the country look to our branch for guidance and leadership, so much so that National is leaning on our branch to establish a toolkit for other branches to follow. And so really just incredibly proud of all the work that we're doing. This is only a small fraction of the work that's happening behind the scenes. And so I invite you to join us. The most important work happens in the committees. We have over 11 committees. We have whatever your passion is, we have a committee for that. And so I want to close with a quote from Nelson Mandela. I read it at the executive committee meeting earlier in the month, but I want to read it to you as well. And as we do, just take a moment to think about how fortunate we are to be one in Arlington, but two, to be associated with this branch. Nelson says, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate, but that we are powerful beyond measure. So I'm going to read it one more time. I want to encourage you to take a moment to process the words. Our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate, but that we are powerful beyond measure. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that this branch, of all branches in the country, we are powerful beyond measure. So thank you, freedom fighters, for all that you do. We need everybody on the battlefield this year. It's an important year. We need all hands on deck. Thank you for being with us this evening. Good night.